Welcome everyone. Let's have a talk about Gulzar's poem, Toba Tek Singh. Our objectives are very clear. First of all, we need to understand Gulzar's poem. Secondly, to understand Gulzar's poem we need to understand a bit about Sadat Hasan Manto's short story, Toba Tek Singh. And thirdly, we need to understand why does this text matter to us, because without understanding that there is no point of studying something, learning something. Learning means you have to understand why it matters to you, why should you learn this. So that is our third point, that is our third objective. Let's move on with the text. At the beginning of the text, the opening statement is that I have to go and meet Toba Tek Singh's Bishan at Wagha. Who is this Toba Tek Singh? Who is this Bishan Singh? So we have to know about Sadat Hasan Manto's story. I have another video discussing in detail Manto's story, but for the purpose of understanding this one, I am just mentioning a few things about his. Sadat Hasan Manto's story, Toba Tek Singh, was published in 1955. It is not only considered to be Manto's masterpiece, but it is the epitome of satiric portrayal of the Indian partition that took place in 1947 along with the independence. Manto in the story satirizes the decision of dividing the nation on the basis of religious differences. Manto shows that the idea of a safe and secure, peaceful homeland was jeopardized when the national leaders broke the nation into pieces in the name of providing safer homes for people of different faiths. According to those leaders' beliefs and practices, the concept of a safe and secure homeland depends on one's religious identity. People migrated following their words, following their rumors, being provoked and everything. People migrated in millions and created a blood-drenched history out of it. Manto satirizes such a concept of homeland when humanity is considered to be less important than religion. Manto's story focuses on the Indian partition of 1947, but Gulzar's poem is actually looking back to that event of the past and relating it with the present. The poem is a re-examination, is a review of the partition of 1947 and the aftermath of that partition that is still in continuation. Gulzar feels that the partition Manto wrote about was not an event that only belongs to the past. According to Gulzar, partition is an ongoing process, still continuously carrying on its catastrophic course. When Manto wrote about partition, he showed us the immediate impact of the cruel event. But when Gulzar writes, he says that partition has not ended, not even paused for one moment, since its journey began in 1947. That is why he wants to meet Toba Tek Singh's Bishan at Wagha, because Manto left him there. At the end of Manto's story, we find Toba Tek Singh or Bishan Singh, because in that story, Toba Tek Singh is the name of the village Bishan Singh belongs to. Bishan Singh is a madman, a lunatic, and Bishan Singh always questions about his village, where it belongs to now. Does it belong to India? Does it belong to Pakistan? That kind of question comes into his mind all the time, and he is questioning about his village all the time, and that's why people call him Toba Tek Singh also. There is a double usage of the word Toba Tek Singh. So Toba Tek Singh is the village, Toba Tek Singh is the man. So Gulzar wants to meet Toba Tek Singh's Bishan Singh. Gulzar wants to meet that man because Manto left him in the no man's land. At the end of Manto's story, we find that Toba Tek Singh is lying there in between the borders, in between the barbed wires of India and Pakistan border. That is, he is lying on the no man's land, and nobody is taking responsibility of him, naturally, but we don't know conclusively what has happened to him. Is he sleeping? Is he unconscious? Is he dead? We don't know. We only know that the man has never slept for decades. He is a lunatic. He always prefers to stand straight and never sleep, never lie on the ground, but he is now lying on the ground on the no man's land. So that is the end of Manto's story. Manto left him in that position. Gulzar says that I know he is still there and he is still muttering, Opar di gurgur di mungdi dal di lalte. When Manto ended the story, Toba Tek Singh was lying there, and what Manto meant is that Toba Tek Singh, or if you call him Bishan Singh, has found his home there, because when he was trying to get to India, he was pushed by the Pakistani officials to get to India. He asked the Indian officer that where is Toba Tek Singh, my village? The officer there, they harassed him, they chuckled about his homeland and everything, and they said that it's in Pakistan, just joking about it. And he then turned away and tried to go back to Pakistan. The Pakistani officers didn't take him back. They pushed him out of their land, and it was a kind of, rejection. The man Bishan Singh was trying to find his homeland, Toba Tek Singh. He is attached to his homeland. That's why we call him Toba Tek Singh and Bishan Singh at the same time. His name is Bishan Singh, but he is called Toba Tek Singh. Why? Because you cannot uproot a man from his home. If you do that, the man doesn't remain the same. The human being cannot remain the same. You have taken a great part, a great influence of his life. That is his homeland. So if you do that, you are uprooting him. So anyway, Toba Tek Singh was in the no man's land. At the beginning of Gulzar's poem, we find that Toba Tek Singh is still muttering, Opar di gurgur di mungdi dal di lalte. The thing is, why does this muttering matter? This is a gibberish. This has no meaning at all. But this has meaning. Actually, this is the most meaningful gibberish ever composed. If you look at it, you will understand that in Manto's story, every sane person, the leader, the people, they have understood partition as if it is something meaningful, because they have understood it, so it must be something meaningful. But they cannot understand Toba Tek Singh, who is talking, meaninglessly, who is talking in gibberish. But the person is the only one who cannot understand this meaningful division of the nation. Okay. So that was Manto's satiric attack on the sanity of the normal people, the clear-headed people who talk so meaningful but act utterly meaninglessly. Gulzar's Bishan Singh still mutters the same gibberish, signifying that the madness among the sane people has not yet finished but is still carrying on. Gulzar's Bishan Singh he is still muttering that speech. Why? That means what Manto meant was that he is muttering that speech. It is apparently meaningless, but it is actually the meaningful one. Simply, Gulzar is saying that Bishan Singh still mutters that gibberish. That means that still the insanity among the sane people has not stopped yet. It is still going on, and that's why the gibberish goes on. It is pretty symbolic. So, Gulzar wants to meet Bishan Singh. After that, Gulzar says that he wants to locate that mad fellow who used to speak up from a branch high above. He is God. He alone has to decide whose village to whose side. Here is another deviation in detail. First deviation was that Bishan Singh is still alive. He is in the no man's land and he is still muttering. Manto stopped there where, he was lying. He was lying on the ground. Gulzar continues from that situation. Second deviation is, it is an insignificant one, that Gulzar says that there was a madman who climbed up on a high branch, and he told us that he was God. In the actual story, there were two different persons. One madman climbed up on the branch of a tree and he told us that I am not coming down. India and Pakistan may go to hell. I don't want to live in India. I don't want to live in Pakistan. I want to live on this tree. That was one madman's reaction. Another madman, he used to say, he started to say that he was God and it was up to him to decide which village will go to India and which village would go to Pakistan. So it was his decision. Now here Gulzar has merged these two characters into one. It is insignificant and I think it is unconsciously done. It is not that important that he has merged these two characters. What he focuses on is the role of God. He says that he is God. He alone has to decide whose village on whose side. Now, the role of God was mocked by Manto himself also, because believers believe that God is the creator of fate. God decides whatever happens on earth. Naturally, when a nation is partitioned and there is massacre going on everywhere, migration and everything, every catastrophic event it was, that must have been God's decision, that must have been God's plan all along. Now, if you suppose you believe in God, then you must have the idea that what is God? It is, according to your concept, it is the creator, the omnipotent, the omniscient, and the ruler, etc. And it resides above your head all the time. It resides above everybody's head in a high position. That is the position of God. So Gulzar has put this madman who was talking about being God himself, and he has put this man, Gulzar has put this man on the high branch of the tree. Just merged the two characters to give a good effect. And he says, the man says that I am God, only I can decide. What the poet is doing is mocking the idea of role of God, role played by God, fate created by God, decision taken by God, the ruling power is God. That kind of ideas are being mocked here, because even God, if you take the idea of God, even God is clueless because nobody can understand what is happening. So the central idea of the poem comes with the lines that he has to be informed, this God has to be informed. If God is the decider of all things, then this God has to be informed that there are some more left still who are being divided, made into pieces. There are some more partitions to be done. That partition was only the first one. That is the main theme, that is the main statement of Gulzar's poem. That partition was only the first one. That means, according to Gulzar, partition started with 1947, with independence, but partition never ended. It is an ongoing process. There are some more people on either side of the border who are being constantly divided, who are being made into pieces. That means there are, separation, differentiation among people on the basis of religion, on the basis of politics, ethnicity, language, gender. It just goes on, dividing people into pieces, into separate groups, small groups. And they are neglecting each other or hating each other or, trying to be vengeful with each other for some reason. And this kind of partition, this kind of dividing the people, the policy of dividing the people has not stopped since 1947. It still goes on. So, partition can be of two kinds. It can be literal, it can be symbolic, and Gulzar portrays that. In the next few lines, he says that I have to go and meet Toba Tek Singh's Bishan at Wagah. His friend Afzal has to be informed. Lahana Singh, Wadhawa Singh, Bahin Amrit had arrived here butchered. Their heads were looted with the luggage on the way behind. Slay that Bhuri, none will come to claim her now. That girl who grew one finger every 12 months now shortens one phalanx each year. Actually, when the partition of 1947 took place, this was literally the scene. In Manto's story, we found that Fazal Deen, the actual name in the original story, I don't know why, but there is a deviation. In actual story, the name of the friend of Bishan Singh was Fazal Deen. Here it is written Afzal. But again, it is an insignificant deviation. I think it is unconscious or inadvertent deviation too. So it doesn't matter that much. Now, that friend Fazal Deen told Bishan Singh that our neighbors, Bishan Singh's family, has reached India safely. He doesn't know for sure, but he thinks that, and he informs about that to Bishan Singh. He hesitates, takes some pauses, but he says that everyone has crossed the border safely. But Gulzar here says that no one arrived. Everyone was butchered. You can take it literally, that is easy, that everyone was butchered. That was the actual scene in the time of 1947, in the time of partition, that many people tried to migrate and many of them got slaughtered in the way. Now, this is the literal description of 1947. But why is he writing it? He is writing it in a very symbolic way too, that the people who arrived here lost their heads. That's why he particularly mentions that their heads were looted with the luggage on the way behind. Perhaps their bodies arrived, but they lost their heads. That means in this country, nobody has come to this country and become happy about it, that yes, I have reached a safer land. Because number one, the family was uprooted from their actual homes in the name of a safer homeland. Number two, they have reached a country, they have reached a so called true homeland where their religion and where their, their whatever their identity is from whatever perspective, they are not going to be unsafe anymore. But in this country, partition is going on still, dividing people on the basis of religion, political choices, food choices, dress codes, gender, ethnicity, all these things. Divisions are still going on, so nobody feels that, yes, I am in peace, I am safe. Nobody can feel that. Everybody is haunted by that dark past. And the past is not past actually, the past continues. So, as I have already mentioned, partition can be literal partition and partition can be symbolic. I mean, the partition Manto wrote about was an event in history. It belongs to 1947. It is a certain partition, an event, and we denote it with a capital P. But when Gulzar talks about partition, it is not a capital P, it is a small p. That means, it is a symbolic partition. It is not an acknowledged part or event of history, but it is there. Like if you talk about the partition of 1947, you know that there is the border. The border is corporeal, you can look at it, you can feel it. That yes, there is the border, there is the division. But the symbolic partition that is going on inside the country, or countries rather, these partitions do not have corporeal borders. These partitions separate people with incorporeal, immaterial borders. They divide people like we are in a country together, but we are dividing, we are separating ourselves from, some other people. We are separating ourselves as a group from another group of people. This separation doesn't have a border to be seen. This is incorporeal border. This is immaterial border. It cannot be seen, it cannot be touched, but it is there. And that's how we are being divided constantly. We are being told that you are a Bengali, you are a Bihari, that kind of thing. You are a man, you are a woman. If you are a woman, you should not do this or should not do that. You are a woman, be like a woman, that kind of thing. You are a Muslim, you are a Hindu, you are an Adivasi, that kind of thing, It goes on. Our identity is so much for this country. Our identity is not that we are Indians, we are humans. This is not our identity. Our identity is, made out of our names, our castes, religion, language, state, culture, ethnicity, gender, everything. That's why I didn't mention at the beginning of the explanation that Gulzar was this man or that was his original name. I didn't mention because in India, names have different implications. If a person decides that I should take a name for myself and I should, write in that name, then we should respect that name. We should not go after his original name, No. We should not, at least not while in India, because in India, names have different implications. People intend to find significant meanings out of names. So, partition, what is partition? Partition is actually differentiating among people. Partition is believing that you are different from somebody else and focusing on that difference. What comes out of it is hatred, fanaticism, and vengeance. Hating each other, being a fanatic about it, that I am better, I am proud that I am XYZ, whatever. I am proud that I am a man, I am proud that I am that kind of thing, it goes on. And then from that pride comes, derogating, the habit of derogating others, looking at others with a condescending look. Hatred comes, fanaticism comes after that, that I should have this opportunity, he shouldn't have that, etc. I should be in charge, and this goes on, list goes on, and there comes vengeance. There comes a constant, a kind of accounting for what they did, what we did, and this goes on. The burning never ends. It just goes on. And that's how partition still goes on inside the country, although we cannot see the borders. So, partition did not only happen in 1947. What I wanted to say is that when Manto wrote about partition, that was the partition with capital P, the partition of 1947. When Gulzar is writing about partition, he is understanding partition in a more abstract way. And he is focusing on the idea of separating people from one another. Or rather, I should say, people being in the habit of being separated from one another, indulging in the habit. That is what he is talking about. And he comes, at the end of the poem, he says, it's to be told. Why did I tell you that the description of that partition is not only a literal one but a symbolic one? Because if you read the next 4 lines, you understand that it's to be told that all the mad ones haven't yet reached their destinations. There are many on that side and many on this. So many of us, he is calling us mad. I mean, you have to understand who are called mad and who are called, the opposite of mad. Normal people, clear-headed people. In Manto's story, as well as in Gulzar's poem, normal and sane and clear-headed people are those who accept partition, who understand it, and who follow this process. On the other hand, mad people are those who cannot comprehend what is happening, who just cannot understand, who just cannot accept. So there are many mad men, there are many mad people from either side of the border. They still haven't reached their destination. What is this destination? This destination is where a man can find peace, where a man can feel that yes, I am in home. I have reached home. I am at home. I have reached home. He feels safe. He feels that he is in peace. He feels that his life is pleasant without any threat of, being uprooted again. That kind of safety, that kind of feeling is the feeling of home. And that was the destination when, partition happened. People were told that you are going to your actual home, a safer place, a true homeland where you will be safe, with neighbors belonging to your own religion and everything. Does that make a group of people safe? Does that make a home? Manto's story probed deep into that idea and analyzed it, satirized it, everything. So I am not going to talk about that anymore. But Gulzar ends his poem by saying that Toba Tek Singh's vision beckons me often to say, Oppar di gurgur di mongdi dal di laltein di Hindustan te Pakistan di durfite mun. This is Gulzar's expression of frustration, anger, and also his cynicism. He says that gibberish by as it was spoken by Toba Tek Singh, as it was composed by Manto. He says that Hindustan te Pakistan di durfite mun. This phrase, this fraction of the statement can be understood as to hell with Hindustan or Pakistan. That means to hell with the national boundaries, to hell with, this habit of dividing people. I don't care about such national boundaries or such. Why does he say that? Because in literature, national boundaries or whatever kind of boundaries are not considered to be something of importance. What is considered to be important in literature is the human condition, is the human life, human struggles, human feelings, emotions, and everything, human condition. And if you think about the ending of Gulzar's poem, you shall find that it ends with a pessimistic note. It doesn't, show us any hope or any kind of positive statement. No, there isn't one. It says that partition is going on. Partition, it is unbearable, but it is going on. It will be like this. As if he is not directly saying that, but he is not expecting any improvement. And he is feeling like people keep dividing themselves. And if the people indulge in such a habit, then who will, redeem them out of their predicament? Who will get them out of their predicament? So, I want to compare it with some other texts or with some other statements. Like, there was a film, The Great Dictator, made by Charlie Chaplin. It was about the fascist regime. It mocked the fascist regime. It, prophesied that what was coming out of Germany. And at the end of that film, Charlie Chaplin had a great monologue. And in that monologue, he told that we think too much but feel too little. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. He tells that we have lost the way, but yet the film ends with a note of hope, a kind of optimistic statement that we have to build it again. We have destroyed so much, now we have to build upon it. Everything, that kind of an optimistic note is there at the end of the film. Also, if we look at John Lennon's song, Imagine, there is a particular stanza where he sings that, imagine there's no countries, it isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. He wrote imagine all. He was imagining. He was he believed in those things, and he wrote that I believe in these things. You may say that I am a dreamer, but I hope one day you will also see things like me. You will also believe things like me, and you will be able to imagine a world like this, where there will be no differentiation. There will be no countries, no war, no religion, no division of any kind. And that is why I told you that literature doesn't care for national boundaries, political divisions, or, religious divisions. Nothing. It doesn't care. It only cares about human life, human condition, human civilization, human emotion, everything. All humanity as one. Now, Gulzar's poem is, as I have told you, it doesn't end with a very positive note that I hope one day it will change, the situation will change. It has a certain similarity, as I find, it has a certain similarity with W.H. Auden's Musée des Beaux-Arts. In that poem, W.H. Auden wrote about the human tendency, or I should say human indifference towards human suffering. In that poem, Auden wrote that, you know, talking about some paintings and everything, he wrote that human beings are to the core very indifferent to the pains of other human beings, to the sufferings of other human beings. They are indifferent, they are negligent, they don't care at all. Human beings are very selfish. And that kind of note, that kind of tone is there in that poem, a kind of, it is a very cynic point of view. It is very depressing. And that tone is what we find in this one, Gulzar's Toba Tek Singh. Now the question is, why does this poem matter so much to us? That's the question. Let's talk about India first. We are a democratic country by constitution. We belong to a secular country by constitution. We have diversity in our country. What we see here is that whatever is written in the constitution, we have we have identity politics. I mean, your name matters too much. Your religion can be understood from your name. Your caste can be understood, your language, and all these things matter too much in our country. There is religious differentiation, there is political separation or boundaries, there is gender based divisions, there is, if you look at partition in a broader sense, it is not always about religions, it is dividing people from people. And if you look at it in this country, a country where Vande Mataram is the national song, but Vande Mataram not the whole song, only the first part of it. Why? Because the country is secular and praising one goddess, which Vande Mataram has that. In the later part of the song, there is a kind of praising the goddess Durga. And naturally, a particular goddess with a particular name belongs to a particular religion. In a secular country, you cannot do that. You have to, avoid any religious touch in your, in something that represents the nation. Naturally, when we decided that Vande Mataram is going to be our national song, we took that part which talks about the nature of the country, the natural beauty and nature as mother goddess. There is no other god or goddess as in the national song. Again, that is true secularism. Again, when we talk about the national anthem, we are a democratic country, and in that national anthem, we took the first stanza of Tagore's poem. We left out the other stanzas. Of course, there are many reasons. One of the reasons is that the first stanza is highly Sanskritized Bengali. The words can be understood in most part of the nation. It can be understood by, easily it can be understood. Whatever your language is, you can understand that what is being said in the song. You don't have to translate it thoroughly. That kind of words are used there. That was a tough job, but of course, that kind of words are used in the first stanza. That's why the first stanza remains, the other stanzas do not. Number one reason, respecting the linguistic diversity of the country. There are other nations where in one national anthem, they have multiple languages used. Inside one song, they have multiple languages used. Okay, you can go through the internet and you will find that African nations are like, there are examples of that. But in India, there are hundreds of languages, and we took that stanza which can be understood by most of us, irrespective of our linguistic differences. We also, there was another reason that in that song there are words like Singhasan, Raj Rajeshwar in the last stanza. In the very last stanza, there is the word Raj Rajeshwar. That means, Singhasan means throne. Raj Rajeshwar means king of all kings. It was, Tagore was writing about God. God is the king of all kings. God's throne, God's, rulership. But the words throne and king, kingdom, we are in a democracy. So we did not need that, right? That is the very idea of democracy, that we have to be pure as democratic people. We do not want to praise something with, metaphoric, even if metaphorically, we don't want to call something a throne, we don't want to call something a king of all kings, etc. We don't want to do that. We want to be democratic in our spirits. But what do we see today? Today we see Rajdanda. Today we see a particular religious, programs are being held, in the inauguration of a particular building that is very important to democracy. So democracy, secularism, everything is, So that is a kind of overpowering the ideas of secularism, democracy, diversity. You can see that when we give something, or when we declare something, that an Adivasi person or a Dalit person has achieved something or going to achieve something, we declare it in such a way that he or she has no other quality as a human being. His or her only quality is that he or she is belonging to a particular ethnicity or a caste or a gender. Why? Is it a kind of praise to point out that I am giving this, or I am declaring this person to this achievement or post or whatever, and saying that I am a liberal person, I am a very open-minded person because I am praising or giving something to someone who belongs to a marginalized class? It is not actually bringing equality. It is, hypocrisy. When you say such things, that I am giving this to somebody, if you boast about it, and that somebody belongs to a marginalized class, and I am giving this because he is belonging to that marginalized class, then you are not doing justice. You are just boasting about your open-mindedness, which is so-called open-mindedness. Isn't it so? Now, if we talk about political, I have discussed about linguistic divisions, I have discussed about gender, ethnicity, and etc. And if we talk about, I have already discussed about religious, secularism and not so secular state now. So I have discussed about all these things. Now about political partition. I don't know about all of India, but where I live in Bengal. And in the history of Bengal, so far I have, learned so much that in the history of Bengal, election is equal to political violence. And let alone election, all the other times, we are so politically, enthusiastic that people kill people out of political, in the name of political ideologies, in the name of changing the society or something like that. They are, making bombs and, hooliganism, destruction, killing, bloodshed, whatever. What is not there? I don't know about other states. I don't want to comment on that. But what I have seen, I can only comment on that. So here you can see that people are divided as supporters of different parties. So aggressive politics is here. I am not talking about any other states. You can relate it with your environment. Okay, so that is a situation from which we can understand how politics can divide us. You see, people should be in charge, people should be in power. Democracy gives the power to people that you decide, you are in charge. But what we have made out of it, we are indulging in hating other people, we are indulging in killing other people in the name of political ideologies or in the name of group politics, whatever. I don't know. So, why people do that? Even some days ago, we found out that a group of sports person belonging to a particular sports, wrestling, they were seeking justice. They were in distress in some kind, there were some reason they were in distress. What do we expect from those people who tweet about every cough and cold? What do we expect from them? That they would at least say that, yes, I am distressed that our golden people are in distress. I am distressed. I am sad to see this. I wish that something will be done and there will be justice and everything. Everyone, every remarkable names, I am not taking any names. There are people who earn crores of money. There are people who tweet about every cough and cold. I am not taking any names. But did they write anything about it? No. There is a particular sport which is like a religion in our country. The sports persons of that sports used to flood the Twitter when an American pop star was concerned about farmers' protest. They were talking about the sovereignty of the nation, right? Independent nation, no one belonging to another nation should talk about us, etc. They were talking about that. But they are not talking about their fellow athletes. That is how they are divided. Why? Because they are thinking that we are in a prosperous state, we are in a better game, if we are popular, more popular, everything, we should protect it. We are in a safer position. We should not, risk this position by, expressing solidarity to those sports persons who are not that popular because they play only in Olympics. And that is not a religion here. Cricket is a religion. Olympics not a religion. So that kind of popularity Olympics doesn't have here. And that's why the politics, the separation comes. That's how people get divided. And the divide and rule policy is continuously enforced. The divide and rule policy was not only the policy of the colonizers, the British. Look about it. Again, in a broader sense I am talking. Gulzar has written about India, the subcontinent at most, the partition of 1947 and the continuation of that partition. He has discussed about that. But as I have told you that when an American pop star tweets about etc., we get united in saying that outsiders should not talk about our country, right? Now think of what is happening to women in Afghanistan, in Iran. Think of that. Now, we are not at all concerned about that, right? What is happening is that fanaticism is taking away human rights. And we are not even concerned about that. What could we do? We could talk, we could perhaps, flood the Twitter or some kind of a procession, some kind of a show, demonstration, whatever. A peaceful thing, because it is not happening in our country, it is happening somewhere else. We could do nothing almost, but we could at least show that we are concerned, that we are feeling sad about other human beings are suffering. But we don't do that. You may say, what would happen if we did that? Nothing. Okay, let's accept that. Nothing. But what will happen when we stop being concerned about human rights? The next day, human rights will suffer inside our country, and no one will talk about that because everyone will be concerned about the national borders. I am an outsider to talk about Afghanistan or Iran, and Iran is an outsider to talk about what is happening inside India. Then nobody will talk about their internal matters, and the internal matters will be like internal cancers, and it will go on, internal hemorrhage. That is how humanity goes under danger. So, what we learn from Gulzar's poem is that we should care more about human beings as human beings. We should think about human rights as human rights, and we should not think about, just, national borders and everything, and we should not keep differentiating among ourselves and, dividing ourselves and giving the opportunity to the power structure, to whoever is in the power, that we are divided. Now you take your vote in your way. That is a moronic thing to do. Every country has, of course, there is a power structure. But if the people, being in a democracy, if the people are divided among themselves, they are dividing, they are not united, they are not thinking of themselves as just human beings, but as Bengalis, Biharis, men, women, Hindus, Muslims, etc. Hindi is a greater language than Bengali, whatever. That kind of ideas. If this kind of, this kind of thing goes on, then what happens? We get weaker as human beings. And even if something is not happening in our country, I have read that when Vietnam War was going on in Kolkata, there were some people demonstrating about, sympathizing or, demonstrating solidarity towards the Vietnamese people. See, that is what I am talking about. That it doesn't mean that we could help somebody so distant, but at least we should be concerned, we should be sensitive enough. Because if we stop being sensitive towards a distant, the human beings belonging to a distant place, tomorrow we will be insensitive towards our own people, towards our neighbors, towards our relatives, towards our own family. And that is what is going on. That is not tomorrow, that is what is going on. We are insensitive. We think too much and feel too little, as Charlie Chaplin said. We feel too little, and that's why such partitions will go on. And there comes Gulzar's cynicism. He sees no way out of it, because as long as humans are selfish, human beings are just seeking for their own peace, own safe, and their own safety and security, and not thinking about humanity as a whole, everybody will sink. Everybody will go through this horror of partition, this horrific migration and massacre. Everybody, symbolically, of course, and maybe in countries like Iran and Afghanistan, maybe literally, but they will suffer, because if they don't get united, then no power structure can make them obey. It is an opportunity to the power structure that if I can divide people, then I can rule more, fluently or smoothly, without any, opposition of any kind. They will fight among themselves. The profit will be mine. So that is the thing going on. Anyway, I want to tell you another thing, that is COVID. You see, you may think that what I am saying is a bit more than necessary or something like that. You may think that, but didn't COVID teach us anything? If we have so many boundaries, if we have Hindu-Muslim boundaries, or if we have linguistic boundaries, Hindi or Tamil, or if we have national boundaries, India or Pakistan, continental boundaries like India or Africa, does it matter? Because COVID proved to us that when a virus comes, a virus can go to anywhere, to any country without any boundary. It can reach anywhere, and it just spreads through human breath. As simple as that. It just spreads through breath, and it spread everywhere. That means we are connected. Whatever happens in Africa can reach us very soon. Now, why do we think as humans that we are different from them? That we belong to a different nation? What is a nation? A nation is a concept of, a different kind. But in humanities, in arts, human beings matter. Nation comes afterwards. And when we forget that human condition, just because there are distance in between us, and that is a different country and etc., we are actually doing a course on how to be an insensitive and indifferent person. Tomorrow we will be so indifferent that we will not see what is happening in front of me. That's why we need to be sensitive. Being sensitive is a matter of practice also, as far as I understand it. So anyway, I think I have made some points to make you understand what is Gulzar writing in his poem, and how it relates to Manto's story. And most importantly, I have discussed that why does it matter to us? Why should we learn? The answer shouldn't be that I must score better, or that is not an answer. That is not what you do with life. If I learn something and don't understand how it relates to my life, then why? What is the point of learning? So that's why I have discussed it in this way. If this video helps you in any way, helps you to understand literature and life in any way, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel.